My name is Karen, and I've retired from dominant culture. I'm choosing to use my white privilege, my American white privilege, in a radical way. To find the creature born wild and free in me, but taught that I wasn't by a culture that has as its main driver the death and destruction of everything. If you can take a hot shower. And that really resonated with me because I went like, wow, we so take for granted just the ability to, turn that faucet and you have hot water. And how many people really, of the 7.2 billion of us on the planet, how many actually have that luxury? We got rid of the propane, and so that meant the hot water heater went, and then spent 6 months learning how to live without it. Kind of eject out of dominant culture, cashed out everything that we had, retirement funds, all that, much to my parents' warnings against such. But I said, I have this money and it's sitting in these funds being invested in fossil fuels and all these things that are keeping this machine going. And I said, I want to put it into something actually tangible and real. And so cashed all that out and put it into this place. And how long? Yeah.
We owe it to all the sacrifices the planet has made on our behalf to at least enjoy the time we have left, to be loving and kind and joyful, not curmudgeon-y worrywarts, whining and complaining. We have so much and have been given and taken so much. The least we can do is enjoy it, and as a result, put goodness back into the collective coherence.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am really excited. First, I'm excited to see all of you out in the audience, and I am excited to have Karen Perry with me. This is a real treat. Hi! Yes, it's a real treat. And let me do my normal thing here. I say hello to my mods, Matt and Kim. And Gary's here, and Poppy's here, and Beela's here, and Olivia's here, and Cindy's here, and Gary's here, and Vegematic is here, and Humpty Dumpty Tribe is here. You know who that is. Sam Mitchell's here, and Rich Diana, and cool, very good. So we will get started. Oh, wait, I think I missed some. Gary Hoover, hello. Hello. So, Karen, welcome. I hope you liked the little intro video I made for you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Sandy. It's it's always a blast from the past to see that those clips from Innocently Violent. That was a while ago now. So thank you. And it's really fun to get to be here and just have some chat time. And I'm so grateful to you for this space to be able to speak truth.
Yeah, and we can.
And it's rare and it's so needed. And thank you to anybody who's actually here live for this right now, and anybody who would be watching in the future for giving your very precious global hospice time to spend here today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I have a little thing on the top, power up, power down, from your place. And I guess the first thing would be to hear about your life and how you live, and then we can transform over into the benefits of collapse acceptance, because all of us here understand that's where we are, and grace. So take it away, Karen.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it's very interesting to see that what we turned into a kind of a logo and a bumper sticker back about, it was 10 years ago when we started our walk away experiment in living differently. And
it's morphed since then, so it's fun to see it. But we definitely started this out having come through the environmental activist shoot, and spent some time in the streets, getting arrested at the White House and with Bill McKibben and 350.org and trying to stop the Keystone XL pipeline, and getting in the streets during Occupy, and having real conversations with people then, and finding a huge need for that, and got involved in social justice movements and all of it. And a lot of it around energy, trying to educate on energy, because it's such a linchpin in understanding our whole predicament, is understanding the energy piece. And most truly don't. I didn't. And but let me back up a little bit, because a lot of this journey, as I'm putting it together now, has been about something we now call finding feral. And I've come to the realization that as potentially the first species on this planet that was domesticated, we've been separated from the rest of the community of life by civilization, and by industrial civilization in particular. And I grew up in the Oakland Hills, where I had this very interesting view from my bedroom window, which was looking out at the viewscape of essentially the entire Bay Area. I could see the Golden Gate Bridge, the Bay Bridge, all this city, the city lights, hear the sounds and everything. But I also was in the hills. And so I had trees and woods and redwood trees, like what's behind me here, and deer that would get into the yard and, you know, make my mom furious because they'd be eating, you know, our plants and things. And so it was this very interesting juxtaposition, and that I was raised in, of this, like, wow, we've got this wild thing going on alongside this very industrialized thing. And how do these two things mix? And so I always had that in me as this weird, what is this understanding? And so fast forward, I had the opportunity to drive across the country in 2011 to participate in this tar sands action. And along the way, got to see our country, like, you know, what's going on in every part of our country. I had never done that before. It was this caravan trip where everybody was going to protest fossil fuels. And we were like, what's our, like, most smallest carbon footprint way to go from California to DC? And we decided it was 5 adults smashed into Priuses and, you know, the compact cars. And we added riders and drivers along the way. And none of us knew each other. And we had these, you know, 8 to 10 hours that smashed in the car, like having these real world conversations. And and I went thinking that I was going to, you know, kick fossil fuel barons in the you know, and get us all, like, transitioned onto this new green energy, you know, thing. And it was on that trip that I realized, oh no, this is a much, much, much bigger situation than a fossil fuel problem. Oh, no. I remember the day that I was in the car talking to somebody about wind and solar, and he said to me, okay, but what are the wind turbines made out of? And I had never really put that together before. And I kid you not, within minutes of that, we drove past this huge piece of machinery on I-80 that I was like, what the heck is that? And I thought it was an airplane wing. And then I realized it was one huge propeller of a wind turbine. And I thought, oh, I had this huge like awakening moment then. And then we got to go to a mountaintop removal site in West Virginia and see where the Appalachians have had, 500 and who knows how many more by now. This was in 2011. Tops of the mountains just blasted off to get coal out, right? And this amazing man, Larry Gibson, took us on a tour of his property where he'd been fighting the coal industry in West Virginia for 30 years. And you don't fight the coal industry in West Virginia and not take some serious abuse, right? So he shared his stories, and then he took us out and we looked at this like just moonscape. And he said, don't come here to take the tour. West Virginia can't do this on its own. Take this on your heart and do something with it. And there were 14 of us there, and we just bawled.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
was
it
going to
was
say, didn't you just feel like crying because of the
yeah,
futility of it? 30 years and still
yeah.
fighting now.
Yeah, well, he died in 2012, so it was a really unique opportunity. But I made a
Wow.
promise. Yeah, I made a promise that day on that staring out at that. I said, Larry, I'm with you. I will take this on my heart. I will do something different. And then we left there, and we had been told about a film screening that was happening in DC right before we were going to get arrested on this tar sands action. And it was a filming of a movie called End Civ, based on the book Endgame by Derek Jensen. And we watched that film. I remember seeing this man stand up and get out of the theater or the screening room partway through because he was so pissed he couldn't take it. And I remember just feeling this like huge thing in my stomach as I watched and put it together that, oh my gosh, this is a civilization situation. This is much bigger than anything I had imagined, which is so interesting because in my former life, prior to this walkaway experiment, I was a teacher and taught. Yeah, and I taught in the public school system.
Oh.
And I taught in middle school, 6th graders, and I taught history. And in California,
history. Cool.
Yep.
That's a cool subject.
And in California, 6th grade history is ancient world civilizations. So I had literally taught over and over and over again, rise and fall and rise and fall and rise and fall and rise and fall of every single civilization leading up to the fall of Rome, because then in 7th grade, you got to the fall of Rome and then took it from there with the rest of the rise and fall. And yet it had never really occurred to me that, oh my gosh, my civilization is just as suspect at fall as any of these others.
That's amazing.
So then I got this, after that film screening, I got the copy of the book Deep Green Resistance because it was being sold as part of this film screening by Derek Jensen and Lear Keith and Eric McBay, and read that for 3,000 miles in the car on the way back from DC, and had to put it down multiple times because it terrified the crap out of me in many cases. But I was so grateful for seeing these words in print that I had never really seen before, like attacking like the very fabric of everything that we do. And so then that launched me into like getting home, living in the suburbs, very manicured life, manicured nails, hair, the whole shebang, and everything that goes along with it, and had, kids, preteen to starting to be teenage kids, and just thought, this is stupid. What am I doing? None of this makes sense. And none of it could resolve with that thing that I felt as a kid of this wild world clash with the industrial world. And I said, I've got to do something different. So yeah, I partnered up with my childhood sweetie pie, who I had met in first grade.
Really? This is amazing. What a story.
And we
Wow.
merged our tribes, and we hadn't seen each other for 25 years. And we were together on that caravan trip. So, but we just, got home and we were like, this is stupid. And so we moved to this place in the woods where we were like, we got to try doing something different. And we can't just be like walk, talking the talk. We got to try to walk the walk. So that's what we've been doing for the past 10 years. And it's been an experiment because most of them have failed.
Okay. Like what?
Yeah.
What failed?
Permaculture. Yeah. We tried that. And we had 8 of us here and, trying to grow food. And we had understood all about it, but it's still farming. And farming is where we went sideways in the first place, when we went from a world where we just went and got the food like all the other creatures do because the food's there, to this new way of controlling the wild world by growing food and putting animals into cages and domesticating other creatures to do our bidding. And so as we participated in that more and more, and yeah, there's a lot of good things about permaculture. If you're going to do farming, it's a better way to farm, right? And the closed loop systems and everything makes sense. However, without industrialization and all the inputs that you have to bring in to even get started in the first place, you ran into a lot of traps. And we ran into the traps of having to fight the wild world to do the work that we wanted it, our domesticated plants that we were bringing in and our domesticated creatures, chickens and ducks and
oh, you did the whole chicken thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it wasn't the best fit for us because I was trying to find this creature in me born wild and free and trying to break out of the cages I felt like I was in. At the same time, I was trying to put plants and animals in cages, and it just didn't feel right. Right. Yeah. And so that was a failed one.
Yeah. I live in a farming community. So it's all over here. It's very Amish and we're all on homesteads. I'm on a homestead like you. I grow food, but I haven't done the permaculture thing. I have a garden, but it's interesting to me. And it is a lot of work. I give you a lot of credit.
It's a ton of work. And to try to on an acre and a half grow enough food to sustain 8 people, forget it. You can't do it.
It's
unless
you do vertical gardens and there's all kinds of stuff out there. Well, I try. It's hard.
Yeah. And then you're into so many systems and, ways to manage it and things that you're building that you have to control and change. And I'm like, I'm looking to be more wild and free. This isn't. So and then we had this whole we're going to go and build community because that's a great way to live together. So everyone can live less expensively. Right. And so we tried all these different versions of having work trade things here and different people come and try different, all a variety of things, and all of them tanked because while we are social creatures, that's a skill that's been stripped away through our domestication. It's been all about individualization. And so
Well,
trying
at
to
least
live
in the last,
together.
what, 40, 50 years since the Reagan era, or would you say before that did we become so individualistic?
Well, I can only speak to my 54 years, I suppose, in true honesty, but it seems like
You're a baby.
the focus has been on your own particular individual ride. And so it
Yeah.
didn't provide me with the skill set that I felt like I needed to be a good community participant. So it wasn't just, you know, um, but that's fine because like we're now in this like more scaled down, smaller space. It's always been about like less is more and continuing to just figure out a way to navigate these times, because what I've absolutely have learned and what has been successful from these past 10 years is being able to testify to a land base that we adopted to try to love back on and live small, to be able to pay attention to what's actually going on, what's going on in the sky above me, what's going on in the forest, what's going on in the water, and to the point where I don't need scientific data to tell me that we're in collapse.
Right.
I feel it, every day. I can absolutely tell you the seasons are changing. I can absolutely tell you the temperatures are changing. I don't, and I'm a much more like rewilded creature for this experience. But at the same time, knowing the closest any of us could get to being wild is feral, right? So that's freaky and weird and
Like some of my cats.
Mhm.
Yeah, feral. Well, I don't know if we'll get back to feral, but I find that your journey is quite fascinating. It is. And scaling down is something a lot of us are trying to do. I'm trying to do it here, but it isn't easy. Get rid of the junk accumulated for a lifetime, a long time. And I still have the pretty big garden, and maybe it's the agricultural area you live in. Is it an agricultural area, or were you trying to fit a square peg in a round hole in a way where you are?
Well, we live in the woods, the Sierra foothills, which has been, you know,
Beautiful.
used over time to grow food and
Okay.
bring in different things. But yeah, it depends where you are. But we, on our little acre and a half here, I mean, so what we've morphed into is like more like a food forest. So we have fruit and nut trees, we have perennial foods, we grow a few annual things, but we're just we
I
try to
love that.
participate and um and that's what's felt the best
Okay.
to date.
The fruit
And
and nut trees. I definitely like that because you can go out there. That is permaculture. You can go out
yeah,
there and you're collecting, you're eating your fruit and your nuts. That's what I don't have. That's what I am working on, making an orchard, but it's a lot of work. I don't know if
yeah.
I can do it. Anybody out there? Come help me.
So we say
Oh,
we're permaculture inspired because that's definitely where we started. And but so to fast forward to where I am right now and being able to have this conversation with you about the benefits of acceptance,
yes.
which I'm so grateful to Michael Dowd and to Connie Barlow, who is his partner, who
Mm-hmm.
it was really just a conversation that I had with Michael that I didn't think was going to go anywhere. And then he did record it and Connie
Yeah.
heard it. And Connie said, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to edit this." And she hasn't really even been wanting to edit videos a whole lot lately. So I'm very grateful to both of them because I think it is a piece of the collapse conversation that I haven't heard in a lot of other places. There's so much doom and gloom, as there should be, because it sucks. Like
Yes.
collapse sucks. And this collapse of industrial civilization exponentially sucks because it's taking the biosphere down with it. And so it's not about our species, although it is, but it's about all
Everything
species.
else. We're taking everything else with us. Everything else. And it
And
is tough.
and it's heavy.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
Yeah. And
Yeah, honey, it's heavy.
and and it has to be heavy. Like if you haven't done like the grief work, you know, you have to do that grief work. You have to give yourself grace to mourn this, and it's really important. But it's not the place to stay stuck. And Michael Dowd has, and I think this is fabulous, he's calling collapse awareness the booby prize.
The booby prize. That's funny.
And
The booby
I
prize,
think,
huh?
yeah, and I think that's great because I hear that. I've heard that on your show, to be perfectly honest. I
Yeah.
hear it all over the place that people who are stuck in awareness, collapse awareness, meaning they understand we're effed. They can point to a variety and speak very eloquently about a lot of different ways we're effed, and have lots of data about it all. And
Like my team.
and
Like my boys. Yeah.
and then you get into the hopium space of the solution oriented, we can still save this, fix it, control it. Lots of denialism wrapped up in all of that, because as I like to continue to say, predicaments have responses, problems have solutions. We're not in a problem. We're in a predicament.
Predicament. Bingo. We are in a predicament.
And so all we can do is respond to it, right? So when you're just stuck in I'm going to just call it out as the toilet bowl of awareness.
Well, here we go. We're going to flush that down. We're in the toilet bowl of awareness. I love it. It was perfect. We can't do a show on this one without that environmental coffee house flush of the day.
Well, flushing is great because that's what we have to do, is get out of the toilet bowl, right? Because so much awareness is all about being stuck in that place where you're swirling around in the denialism, the sadness, the anger, the all of that, the despair, trying to hang on to that shiny piece of poo that looks like maybe it's going to save you when it's just a poo wrapped in a shiny package. And it's when you can get out of awareness around collapse and into acceptance that there's all these benefits that open up. And so that was the conversation that I wanted to get started and have people have more and more, because Joanna Macy has put out this, and I kind of see it as a challenge. Like, okay, we're collapsing. It's happening. It can't be stopped. It's inevitable. But can we collapse well? Is that something that we could participate in doing? And I'm like, ooh, I like a challenge. That sounds interesting. That speaks to my heart space. That speaks to my love of this planet, to my love of all the other creatures. But you can't have that collapsing well conversation without collapse acceptance.
And Carolyn Baker's taught us that too. Carolyn. I'm close with her, and she has done a lot of collapse acceptance work and continues to do it. So we have resources. We are lucky that we have. We're blessed that we have the resources we have, and you are one of them.
Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome.
so people have said to me before, "Oh, you should write a book. You should write a book." And I've thought about it, and then I'm like, we have so many books. We actually have too many books. There's too many words. And so I've tried to write a book, but it's on one sheet of paper.
And I
I
think I have them. Yes, I do.
um
Oh.
to just like too many words. Keep it tight. And so I have the 15 benefits that anybody who wants to read them is welcome to have them. And alongside that, I have my Tenets of Grace, which I wrote because all this activism we used to do in the streets, people would often say, okay, so I get it. You know, things are tanking, we're screwed. But so now what? What do we
Right.
do? And so I thought that's a great question. What do we do? And because it's a predicament, not a problem, then you're able to look at how do we respond? So what can some responses look like? So this is the list of the benefits of when you get to collapse acceptance, you're able to just sort of view all this in a different way. It doesn't mean you don't have the grief, the sadness, the anger, whatever that goes along with it, but it doesn't rule your life, and you sort of carry it around in your backpack like a rock, like a big rock. Like it's always there, but it's not. I'm not living my life in this like doomy gloomy space because I'm so freaking grateful to the point of crying when I see a butterfly. For like
Oh
I'm
my
just
God.
like this
Me
is
too.
this is amazing.
Yeah, me too.
Like I am so grateful when I wake up in the morning and I look outside. I'm like, oh, nothing's on fire. This is great.
I love
You know,
this.
I
Love this.
I have so much gratitude and so much joy in me. And so I'm trying to encourage others to lean into this too, because when people are afraid to get onto the collapse understanding in the first place because they're concerned it's going to all be doomy and gloomy, and I again, you have to do the grief work to get through it, but
Yep.
you can get to the other side and feel like, oh, it's so much better.
I don't know if I'm on the other side. I'm working on being on the other side. And I think a lot of us are. But you're here to give us some tips how to get
Yeah.
to the other side.
Yeah. Let go. Number 14 on my list is letting go, and it probably should have been maybe number 1, but
Let me see if I can find that. Am I
but
on the right screen? I think. Yep, letting go.
yeah,
Whoop. Well, I lost
yeah.
it, but I'll bring it
So,
back.
but I'll talk about number 1 first because it's freedom, and I want to be clear too, like these are benefits that are unique to everyone and how they're applied.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not making the suggestion that anyone would have the same ability as anyone else in what you have and how your life is structured to be able to apply these, right? I'm just offering some examples, but it's going to be unique to everyone's situation. But freedom, like where can you, in your understanding of collapse acceptance, what does this give you freedom to find in your life? Like, and we have these lives scaled so much on all these things we should do, that we have to do, that we have these expectations of needing to do. And how can those be changed into all the things you could be doing instead? if you change this focus of, we can't fix it, we can't change it, we, put all that away and focus on the now and the present, and our life is short, our time is likely very short, are you really doing with it what you want to be doing with it? And if you're not answering that question affirmative with a yes, then maybe really getting to acceptance that this is happening, you can't change it. If you need support with that, go watch Michael Dowd's 10 Inevitables All You Can Eat Buffet, this 2-hour video that he just came out with that is fabulous. It'll really help get you to acceptance, like faster than anything else I can suggest. So yeah, and then getting back to 14, which is letting go. That's a huge, because it's the letting go of first of control. Like, we're not in control. We've never been in control. And our species has had this like homo colossus, like ridiculous understanding that we're somehow in control. And that's just such a false narrative. And so being able to get away from, all you can control are your thoughts and your feelings. And that's it. And letting go of worry. I mean, on the last day of your life, does anyone sit there and say, gosh, I sure wish I'd worried more?
No, I don't think so. Not that, but you never know. There's strange ones, but actually, Karen, that's pretty poignant. Yeah.
And
yeah.
And I hear in collapse awareness people so much worry. It's when everybody finds out, there's going to be like panic, pandemonium, and just like
I don't have that.
Yeah. But I do hear that a lot,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, just trust that whatever you're in, you'll do the next right thing, and let it go. And the fear, so much fear to just release, and guilt. Oh my gosh. If you've come through the chute, especially in the environmental movement, I mean, we have been laden with guilt. Like, gosh, I'm using the wrong straw, and I don't have like fair trade, fill in the blank. And, I have to be, using the right energy sources, and I feel terrible because I got on an airplane, and just all these.
Oh, I just had to do that, and I was wrestling with it because my stepfather passed in Florida, had to go. Everybody lives far away, and I took the opportunity to take tons of video out the window and turn it into something creative and make a video on flying. But I did wrestle with it. I felt guilty in a way because but then as someone that's in our audience with us says, well, if your ass isn't in the seat, someone else's is going to be.
We didn't
You can't change it.
Create this. Many of us would have said, if I'd been given a vote, I wouldn't have voted for it.
Right.
And so it's so important to just understand, and I have this written in Letting Go, that there is no purity test that any of us can pass.
I see.
And it doesn't matter if you're vegan, if you're have an electric vehicle, if you ride your bike to work, if you get on an airplane 18 times a year, I mean, if you drive a Hummer, I mean, there's no purity test that any of us can pass. And so we have to let ourselves off the hook, and we have to let others off the hook, because there's so much blame and so much, if only they would XYZ, then we wouldn't be in this situation. And that's just crap. Like, civilizations rise and fall. It's what they do. And ours is no different. And so we have to understand the other piece of this that I think is so important is I hear this shitting on our, I don't know if I can say that, sorry.
You can say
On,
whatever the fuck you want.
okay, great. I on our species all the time. Like, we're a horrible species. We're flawed. We have, there's so much wrong with us. And I'll thank the Bible for some of that, just to be perfectly honest, because like there's this whole narrative around like our fall from grace, and then we have to like, on our hands and knees, like clamor our way back. And I don't like that, because the creator of this magical, wonderful, amazing, beautiful place, however you want to describe it, the source or whatever, I just don't believe that making flawed creatures was part of that design. I just don't. We're our species is as incredible and interesting and challenging and everything else as any other. But it's the story that we're enacting as a species. That's the problem. It's our species survived for millions of years on this planet very harmoniously and as a participant with all the rest of the community of life. It's this change to this civilizational story of how this is how we are supposed to live that is the problem, and not our species. And so I think it's really important as part of this collapse acceptance to give ourselves grace, to give all others around us grace and empathy and compassion as well, because we're just all in this together. And there's no, the guilt and the shame and the blame just needs to be released. And I think we'd all be able to get along better if there was more understanding of that component.
Well, we're trying. I put the grace graphic up if you want to talk about that.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So,
beautiful.
Tenets of grace. Grace to me is getting real about collapse extinction. And it's some responses that we can have to get real. And there's been so much messenger shooting around this. So, people get really pissed when, you have to confront this, and they should. I mean, it's every emotion you can think of to have to get real. Let go or be dragged is part of that letting go that I was talking about. Having a buddy is so critical in this. If I didn't have Jordan, I hear this from couples a lot. Like, one person is really like in collapse awareness or have gotten to collapse acceptance, and their partner is just, like la 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 la, head in the sand, don't want to hear it. And that's really, really challenging.
It's very, I mean, I had that with the added extra bonus of narcissism and not nice. So I had that, and now I'm doing this on my own, but I find that I have community in other people because of the virtue of the fact I have this channel. I have friends that will come here and be with me and help me with the garden and things, and it's actually a much more positive experience than it was prior. So that's a good one for me.
Yeah, it's so hard in this collapse space because I've started these women's circles, this women's circle called Post Doom Bloom as a spinoff to the discussions that Michael Dowd's been having, because I found that for years I've been feeling so alone. Like I'm grateful for this walk away that we've done, but part of the loneliness package that has come along with it has been challenging, and just not having people to have real, honest conversations about this with has been really hard. And so I have a women's circle going now with women from 5 different countries. 32 of us now have, yeah, who,
That's
and it's so great. And the story is repeated over and over and over again from everyone. Like, I totally get this. I'm in acceptance, but I have no one to talk about it with. And so having a support network is really important. And I think
very cool.
I think we're finding that more and more and more people are coming to Collapse, are in awareness and are working their way through that to acceptance. And those who are not even, like, haven't even gotten really into awareness yet, will be, because Collapse is happening. Everybody feels it, whether or not you can articulate it or not. It's happening, and it's only getting
I'm going to have to put the link in there for everybody to your group. And possibly, is this a once a week thing, or how do you work this? Tell me. It sounds like it would be advantageous for me.
We're meeting twice a week currently, because we have women from Australia and New Zealand and the UK, and so trying to find a time that works for everybody around the globe is challenging. So right now we're gathering at 2 different times. And yeah, you can email me at chickenfootrewilding@gmail.com.
Okay.
And I can
Hear
give
that,
more
guys?
information.
Yeah.
And I encourage, I know this is going to keep growing, is the thing, because this acceptance piece it's a better way to be living as we're collapsing than just stuck in the toilet bowl.
Yeah, I hear you. I definitely hear you. I like this. And there's a lot of conversation going on out in the chat. We've got some questions. Wow. I think there might be somebody that's Lost Huskies pack that might be in your group. I love the women's group. And it sounds like something that would really fit with our followers that are looking for this. And perhaps, Karen, there's a reason, and you are the reason why I've been looking for something, and I haven't been able to do it myself at all. But here you are, a resource for all the chicks in our audience. Yeah. And wait, I got to give that an applause for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I think that
and for, I don't want to leave the guys out, either. This Michael Dowd's discussions that he's holding twice a week are awesome. And Gary, I think Gary's here. I've gotten to know Gary through that discussion group. And so the good news is we've been made to feel like we're alone, and we've been made to feel like we're crazy, but we're not. And it's time to come out of the shadows more and start normalizing collapse in the conversations that we have. And because I think, the language that we use is so critical. And I'm not suggesting like going out in the streets and, proselytizing or preaching or anything like that. That doesn't work. But what I am suggesting is just that through the acceptance of this inevitable predicament that we are in, we've hit the iceberg, and we can do work to normalize it, to make it more comfortable. I'm finding more and more that if I just toss a little kernel about collapse or something into conversations that isn't confrontational, that it is, there's people out there that are hiding, that want to have these conversations and have started to show up and be grateful, that others are willing to be vulnerable and courageous, to speak truth. And we owe it to the rest of the community of life that has sacrificed so much for
Everything.
us
Yeah.
to speak truth. And we owe it to the younger generations, because one of my tenets of grace is we have to be having the conversation to set the younger generations free and what that can look like, because it's super abusive to keep lying and denying and passing that on. It's not
Here,
okay.
guys. You can see it in I have it here also out of my graphic. If anybody wants this, I can certainly send it. This is the Tenets of Grace. It's a little bit bigger, so you could see it. I had made it into a graphic, but just so you know, it's there. And anybody ask, contact me or Karen. We can certainly accommodate.
Yeah, I think you linked it maybe to this video too. I'm not sure, but
I may have.
um, so that's a critical piece, and you know, we can do better with the younger generations of helping them live their fullest lives that they can now. I'm all about, I'm not, Jordan says it way better than I do, but he's like, we've been trying to make broken robots. We've got 5 kids between us, ages 17 to 25. And, we're not whipping them. We're not kicking them out of the house. We're not like forcing them to go do, stupid jobs they don't want to do. Like, we're trying to find freedom and ways to, keep us alive and fed and sheltered every day, but not so that it's miserable and onerous, and trying to help our kids live as full and complete lives right now as they can, because they are being cut short. Mine's being cut short. My parents are in their 80s and still alive. I'm not, and they're worried about me and my and Social Security, and I'm like, oh, for Pete's sake, get over it. Like, I'm 54. I doubt I'm gonna even get to the point where Social Security.
We don't know. We don't
We
know.
don't.
And the not knowing is something in a way that I think is advantageous, because it's just going to allow us to develop the acceptance further. I think, further acceptance. We can't say, okay, 2026, I can't say it. Somebody else might be able to say it. I can't say it.
No, but many of the benefits of acceptance are things we would be wise to be doing anyway, whether or not collapse was happening at all in 10 years, 50, whatever. So there's that. But I when you've got very conservative areas, tossing out numbers that used to always be, 2100, and I would just laugh, and then like, it's like, starts getting backed off more and more, 2050, and then you're seeing 2040, and you're just like, oh geez, like,
yeah, and remember what you said to me about when we had our IPCC show, and it's all, it's those guys, and it's all about the graphs and the science and all that, and I understand it keeps changing. The baseline keeps changing as to how they're measuring, for the for 19 ppm or the 1.2. I get where you're at. I get where you're at, that there's a point in time where it's just not going to matter,
I think we're there now,
Right.
honestly.
Well, but my team.
As far as like needing to, I know there's some people that are like very collapse aware, addicted to whatever the piece of awareness that they enjoy. Like it's kind of like collapse porn almost, like, what
Collapse. Oh,
what
that word.
what is the latest, most terrifying, horrible thing that's happening today, sort of a thing, and what's the latest, most terrifying report that's out there. And I'm like, I don't know, there are plenty of them, but maybe it's better just to use that time to go out and connect with a wild creature and spend some time in the now, being grateful for what we currently still have that's working, and trying to live with more compassion and enjoy like what's on the bucket list. And I'm not
Well,
saying like necessarily, I mean, you have to decide, everyone has to decide for themselves, but is there something that you really want to do that understanding, coming from a more urgent type space, would help nudge you along?
well, I see right now, I just have to mention this, that our follower Singing Way is in Ohio and she has to go into a tornado shelter. So she's living her reality as the breakdown happens. She's now in real time our follower, and we have to wish her, well, and we love you, and we hope everything does work, and that there's that hope word, but we don't want anything to happen to you. And I know that there's been tornadoes. I've lived through one on my property, which was horrible. So I wish her the best. And see, here's in real time, collapse
Yeah.
in real time. And it is not just the normal weather patterns. And Nicholas Humphrey's been all over Twitter reporting on this. Our meteorologist, he is going for his PhD in emergency disaster preparedness, because somebody's got to do it and help us. I mean, even though, yes, we are talking about acceptance, his awareness is that he wants to be of service when the shit hits the fan, which it's hitting in many places, very
Yeah.
many places.
We we almost burned down last August.
Oh,
There were flames on the property 2 parcels down from where we live.
oh,
We were
shit.
evacuated for 5 days. We live in a creek canyon that feeds the Bear River, and from where I'm sitting right now, I can look out the window and see the ridge line on the other side of the canyon. That's very close. That's completely all burned out.
That's
So
really scary stuff.
it's like I said, like it's, whether you can articulate it, everybody feels it. It can, and this is happening. This isn't like, and so
Oh my God.
yeah. Jordan says, like, there's been so much concern about other climate refugees in other parts of the world, and I'm like,
It's
this
right here,
is even
baby.
we have climate refugees right now. There's a
You have
gal in our,
fire and we have water. Yeah.
yeah. So it's an interesting time to be alive. I'm grateful for my gift of life, and I'm much more aligned with the musicians on the Titanic than the people running around in a complete panic. And I think being in collapse acceptance is where you can find that gift to just play and sing and love.
I love this. I feel love for you already instantaneously. I think this is a relationship that's going to bloom. I'm going to come into your calls when I can. I think
Right
this has
on.
been
That'd be awesome.
beautiful. Yeah, it's probably just what I need. I'm going through tough times in my life, and while everybody in the chat knows I've whined and bitched and moaned, and I've done the things I probably shouldn't do. My catharsis was making a video about what I'm going through, but it is not on my channel. I can't put it on my channel. But we have been an hour. I mean, this conversation could go. This is just part one. This is just part one. I think what we're going to do a little bit, Kara, if you don't mind, is I'm going to pull up some of the questions and we can go over that. And oh, Singing Way wants to know, and I don't think she's with us, where she can see the film. Is it on YouTube? The Derek Jensen film and your film?
Oh,
Piv,
and
the Civ
and
film.
and
Civ.
Civ is I haven't tried to find it in a while, but I'm
All
sure
right.
it's out there. And
I'll
then
try to find it.
Innocently Violent is the documentary that we're in.
Oh, yeah.
That yes is available on YouTube.
I took pieces
and,
of it.
and then the conversation that I had with Michael Dowd is on YouTube, and Jordan, my partner and my buddy,
He just did it.
he just had a conversation with Michael Dowd that was just released. That is, I highly recommend. So
We've had Michael Dowd on a couple of times. Michael, I've done videos, and Jennifer and I have had him on. I have not been on his show. It would be interesting because I am usually, the interviewer or the commentator when I do my own shows, but I haven't been on yet. Okay, Gary is asking, finding feral is a great term. Can you explore that a bit, please? Is feral really possible for us? Is it desirable? I think of isolated tribes living this way. So maybe we can talk about feral a little.
sure. Well, I guess feral, because it's feral, you can have your own sort of definition of feral, but I'll share mine. It's the bridge between domestication and wild. So in any domesticated creature trying to find their way back to the wild world, you have to go through something called feral. That's the closest thing you can get to ever being truly wild. As much as I've tried to push back on dominant culture and not participate in all these systems of control that have domesticated us, I can't eliminate them completely from my life. You can't. It's like you have to be bilingual. You have to tap into your wild self, and also still you have to stay connected to this very civilized, industrialized world.
Yeah, we are connected.
So, but here's a simple example. When we moved here, it was all about powering down, as you see in this logo, right? So I wanted to test myself, like on how little energy could we use to stay, comfortable and whatever. So I love to camp. So I was like, okay, let's adopt a live like you're camping, like, mindset. and so when it's dark, and you don't turn on artificial lights all over the place, and you use a flashlight and you use a candle. And so we live like this,
like my Amish neighbors.
And I was amazed at how well, and it took a little bit of time, but how well we can see in the dark.
Wow.
And that is a skill that atrophies through the use of artificial light. And when your eyes get accustomed to living in the dark, you develop this wild side of you that you have to be able to see, to the point where our kids would have gone to a friend's to spend the night for a sleepover, and they would come back and say, Mom, I had headaches the whole time I was there because they had so much bright light on at night. And these are the same kids who were complaining about having to do, homework with, a candle or really like, minimal light. But had also grown to appreciate their skill set of that. And then it also helps you really get in tune with the rhythms of the planet. So the seasons change, and we're supposed to change. Like, you're supposed to have less light at night and in the winter time, and supposed to spend more time, quiet and hibernating and, being calmer and that sort of thing. And when you tap into these rhythms, like, I've been all screwed up because California still does this stupid thing where we change the clocks.
We're
And
not anymore, I don't think. I think it's going to
well,
stay at daylight time.
but we just did. And so
Yes, we just did.
I was really tapped into the rhythm of the time of day that was, I knew when it was getting dark, and I knew when it was getting closer to my time for my daily walk to head out based on where the sun was in the sky and all of that. And then through this artificial like box of time that we put us in, all that like adjusted.
And it's tough. I'm looking forward to seeing how I like this. I do like the daylight savings because I like to be out at night in the summer and working in my garden, and also when I go out, which I don't a lot, driving at night where I live, it's like taking your life in your hands. And I'm sure you understand it with the deer. There's just and the wildlife, and I don't want to hurt anything. So I don't like to drive at night that much, not here anyway. And there's nowhere to go. I hardly ever leave. I want to ask you that. Do you leave your homestead very often, or are you pretty much there? Or do you have to go out and get water? I mean, do you, have to go out and get firewood?
Yeah, great questions. I mean, we live a very hybrid life. So, we're 5 minutes from Interstate 80, and we but we have a small town here. But I haven't left our property except to walk since in a week. And that can be very normal. Jordan is doing some tree work for some neighbors right now. So he's left the property in a vehicle but like 5 minutes away. So it just depends. But no, in fact, sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to like go out just for, a little bit. But no, we've got the Bear River a mile away, so I'll go down there. And
beautiful.
I wanted to answer Gary's question about the tribe thing, because I think that's really interesting related to feral.
He's got quite a few questions. He's got one on degrowth and a moment on degrowth and rewilding, but take it away on what you were.
Okay, so our species previously has been organized on the planet tribally. Mm-hmm. It's how our species has been extremely successful prior to civilization. And global industrial civilization has got us to the point of this, what I call a huge myth of homogenization, that we are all expected to be together in one giant soup and all supposed to, understand each other and get along and all of that. And I think that's actually false, because tribe is an important way to organize based on the needs of the people right around you that you're in community with, and the needs of the land base that you interact with. It was a wonderful part of diversity on the planet that our species was tribally organized.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And here where I live, I see that it's tribal in that the Amish are very closed and tribal, but yet they'll sell their stuff to us, of course. You know, they've got to live, they've got to make a living. But and I see that there's some of us that are it's a while, but we've got a corridor all the way from Bugs in a Jar Farm to my house where we're saying to people it's really good here. It's a decent area to land if you are aware, you know, between Bugs in a Jar and then Environmental Coffee House Farm or whatever you want to call my place. And I've got somebody coming up that's probably going to start staying with me for 6 months out on the property. He's going to put a little house up. That's Warren. And so we've built a community, or we're building a community, which is really good. And it's all from being part of this. And it's great. And now
Yeah.
you're part of it. You're part of it, and I'm part of you, and it feels good. And this our chat is very excited about all of this. Everybody's pretty excited. We've got let's see.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Gary
I mean,
says, thank you for all the comments related to place and tribe. Are we globally indigenous now? Can we really become all one people on the planet? Maybe those that are left.
I think we've done too much trying to turn ourselves into pretzels to make us fit in with everyone instead of focusing on localism and degrowth and community and it's
I think it's all good. We have a lot more to go. I mean, this is the first conversation I think of many.
yeah,
I've
that would
really
be
enjoyed
great.
this. I have enjoyed this. Everybody out there, you've all enjoyed it, haven't you? We have 60 people with us, and Kim is leaving, our mod. Thank you, Kim, very much as always. Truly a guest. Yeah, this has been great. I'm going to probably say we're going to end because I'm having difficulty sitting for long periods of time. Everybody knows my whole story. I'm not going into it, but thank you, Karen. If you have any more links for me, I'll put everything in the show notes. And we want you back. We want you back. And I will definitely be looking into the women's group or the calls with you. And let's see. Rick says that's right. We are a product of our ancestors. Climate and geography takes a while to adapt to new digs. I think he's going back a little bit to part of it, but all right. So is there anything you would like to end with and tell our beautiful followers? Your husband is saying much love and thanks to all. This is an awesome group. Oops. Yes, it is. And I love every single one here. Everybody. Nothing
Thank
but
you.
love.
Again, thank you all for what I call global hospice time. I think using our time that we have left as if, this, you just don't know. And so, find that gratitude place and trust that if you can get through this collapse awareness piece to collapse acceptance, that there is much glory in that. And I think if more of us can get there, then together we can contribute to helping make the collective coherence a better place for us and for all the rest of the community of life. And so go find a wild creature and look them in the eyes.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Karen. I think I'm going to end with the video I made for you that not everybody saw. I'm going to end with that. And then our usual, Karen, you will be back. And everybody collapsing with Casey. Casey, thank you. Rick Larson, Gazer, Gary, Prager Squire, people I haven't mentioned before. I love you guys. I love you all. I have so much love in my heart.
My name's Karen. and I've retired from dominant culture. I'm choosing to use my white privilege, my American white privilege, in a radical way. To find the creature born wild and free in me, but taught that I wasn't, by a culture that has as its main driver the death and destruction of everything. If you can take a hot shower. And that really resonated with me, because I went like, wow, we so take for granted just the ability to, turn that faucet and you have hot water. And how many people really, of the 7.2 billion of us on the planet, how many actually have that luxury? We got rid of the propane, and so that meant the hot water heater went, and then spent 6 months learning how to live without it. Kind of eject out of dominant culture, cashed out everything that we had, retirement funds, all that, much to my parents' warnings against such. But I said, I have this money and it's sitting in these funds being invested in fossil fuels and all these things that are keeping this machine going. And I said, I want to put it into something actually tangible and real. And so cashed all that out and put it into this place. And how long? Yeah.
We owe it to all the sacrifices the planet has made on our behalf to at least enjoy the time we have left, to be loving and kind and joyful, not curmudgeon-y worrywarts, whining and complaining. We have so much and have been given and taken so much. The least we can do is enjoy it, and as a result, put goodness back into the collective coherence. Really?